This is Radio Health Journal. I'm Reed Pence. This week, the fear of stuttering.
You can see that he's stuttering, and you can also see that he's just doing whatever he can in the moment to get out of that moment of stuttering.
Why most people misunderstand that, when Radio Health Journal returns.
I'm Nancy Benson, host of Radio Health Journal. If you enjoy listening to Radio Health Journal, you'll also like our sister show, Viewpoints, which covers a wide array of topics from education to history to the environment. Here's a preview of what they're covering this week on Viewpoints.
There are moments in my life where I am afraid and I am looking in my rearview mirror constantly.
The fight for racial justice in the midst of a pandemic. Then,
in about 4 or 5 days, we unplanned and replanned a little intimate wedding.
Getting hitched in the midst of COVID. I'm Marty Peterson.
And I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth this week on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.
Listen to Viewpoints on your favorite radio station and subscribe and listen to shows anytime on Apple Podcasts and Google Play.
Most of us have known a stutterer at least once in our lives. Often it's in grade school when kids are just acquiring verbal fluency. Around 5 to 8% of children aged 2 to 4 stutter, so it's reasonably common. For most of them, it starts to recede by the time they're 6 or 7. However, for about 1% of people, it never goes away completely, and they often fight myths and stigma for the rest of their lives.
The myths about stuttering, one of the worst and the one that we bust right up front is the one about our people who stutter stupid. And we can bust that one up in a big hurry with Churchill, James Earl Jones, Emily Blunt. There's just a lot of myths surrounding it, and they're real hard to overcome.
That's Jane Fraser, president of the Stuttering Foundation of America. She says family history is the biggest risk factor for stuttering. If a child has a close relative who stutters persistently, the odds increase that they will too. She says 3 genes have been found that are related to stuttering.
Anywhere from 60 to 80% of people who stutter do have a genetic component. We also know that it's a neurophysiological disorder, that they process speech and language in a slightly different way. And when you think that there may be some 45,000 neuromuscular events per second to say one word, it's not surprising that there might be a slight delay for some people.
Gender plays a big role in stuttering. Boys are affected more often and are more likely to persist. Fraser says brain structure may explain why.
Now, some of the very latest research is the loss of astrocytes, the cell that's in the brain that's found in the white matter that separates the left and right hemispheres. And it's interesting, 4 times as many men stutter as women. Women talk a lot sooner. Girls talk a lot sooner than boys. There seems to be better connection between the left and right hemisphere in girls. And all of that might be connected. We know that the astrocytes play an important role in the white matter. So it could be that part of the problem is the loss of astrocytes that are in the white matter that bridge the 2 hemispheres.
However, the effects of that don't kick in all the time. Stuttering doesn't happen with everything a stutterer says, so those who don't know a person is a stutterer may think that when it does happen, it's a result of the person somehow losing it.
This all really relates back to the variability of stuttering. This is something that in my lab, we spend a lot of time studying. The fact that sometimes people stutter and sometimes people don't, and that varies from situation to situation. It varies across individuals. And in fact, most of the speech for most stutterers is fluent.
Dr. Eric Jackson, assistant professor of communicative sciences and disorders at New York University, is a stutterer himself. He says only 3 to 7% of a stutterer's speech is usually affected at all, and listeners, like parents, notice that.
The fact that they see that most of the speech is fluent, and then sometimes when they, quote, get nervous or get anxious, that those are the times they seem to be stuttering. I should say that anxiety, all of these result from the moment of stuttering. They don't cause the moment of stuttering. I think that that's an important point here. But because the listener sees that, it's like, oh, wait, I just saw you speaking fine over there. Something must be going wrong right now, and that's why you're stuttering right now. Why don't you just do what you were doing before right now? The fact that it's so variable and it's unexpected when people hear it, I think that that's what makes stuttering one of the last conditions that people still seem to think that it's okay to make fun of.
That's why, even though stuttering is recognized as a disability by the Americans with Disabilities Act, most of those who are affected go to great lengths to avoid the words and phrases that trip them up.
Actually, a lot of people who hide it are very proud of that. No one will know. A lot of people who stutter say that fear is a bigger component than perhaps the speech part of it.
So they develop this awareness, and then at the same time, they develop the ability to anticipate when they're going to stutter. So, for example, what situations they're more likely to stutter in, what words or sounds they're more likely to stutter on. It's really interesting. Most people who stutter have a certain set of words that they're more likely to stutter on. And a almost universal one is a person's name. When you develop this awareness and you know that on upcoming speech you're going to stutter, then you can do a whole bunch of different things in order to try to change how that behavior manifests itself, how the behavior presents itself to the world.
Jackson says a big strategy is called circumlocuting, or changing the words around to say the same thing in a different order. Another strategy?
This can include stalling, even stalling for a very, very brief period of time. In some instances, the stuttering might pass because of that. This could involve word switching. So, for example, I've heard a lot of people tell me, and I've actually done this myself when I was a kid, change my name. So gave a fake name if I needed to say my name, because that was preferable to me than getting the negative reaction from whoever I was talking to. So if a person knows that they're going to stutter and they implement one of these strategies, that stuttering event will not be evident necessarily to the listener, but it's certainly evident to the speaker.
It may also be evident to other stutterers or to those who've studied them, but most people would never know it. For example, did you know actor Samuel L. Jackson stutters? Composer Andrew Lloyd Webber, TV news pundit John Stossel, and presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden. Few people know that Biden's a stutterer, and Biden himself rarely talks about overcoming it, but he did in a CNN town hall in February.
And I'd get up in the middle of the night with a flashlight, and I'd look in the mirror, and I would try to memorize what I could in another small book on Emerson quotes. I remember the first one, looking in the mirror with a flashlight in my face, because you get embarrassed because you can torch your face, and it's embarrassing. And so I'd stand there and say, meek young men, grow up in libraries, believing it the duty to accept the words of Cicero, Bacon, and Locke, forgetful that Cicero, Bacon, and Locke were only young men in libraries with themselves. I would practice and practice and practice because I was determined to overcome it. I was led to believe I could, and I basically did.
Still, Jackson sees that Biden has to make split-second decisions every time he talks in order to avoid phrases that might trigger his stutter.
That's exactly what I see in his speech patterns, right? So there will be some times where you can see that he's stuttering, and you can also see that he's just doing whatever he can in the moment to get out of that moment of stuttering. And that involves a host of different things. I mentioned some of the avoidance behaviors before, but that can also entail some physical coping strategies like blinking the eye or sort of looking down or moving the head back a little bit. So when somebody sees those, it's really easy to say, he's losing it there. The guy doesn't know what's going on. He forgot what he's going to say. When in fact, it is clear in many of those situations that all he's doing is having this little intermittent neurological glitch, stuttering, and he's just trying to get through it.
Jackson says misinterpretation of those efforts can be damaging. He says, take this example from a talk last August.
He's saying that it was my boss, it was his fault.
Some say it seemed like Biden forgot Barack Obama's name, but Jackson thinks he was simply trying not to stutter.
It's hard to say with absolute certainty that that's what happened in the moment. I can tell you, it sure looked like it. And the thing is that working with people who stutter for so long, and also being a person who stutters, we all know the tricks that we try to do to disguise or conceal moments of stuttering. And in that particular situation in the clip, he goes to say Obama. You can kind of even almost see him posturing for O. That seems like what he was intending to say, but then he stalls. In that moment, he made a decision. It was preferable to him to switch the name, and we'd have to ask Joe Biden about this, but maybe feel a little bit of embarrassment or a little bit of shame or whatever, be unhappy with himself in some way. But that was preferable to him risking saying Obama and stuttering, something like this. Obama.
Jackson says that none of this is meant to say Biden never gaffes and says things he didn't intend to say. He does that too, but that's not what Jackson's talking about.
Those are different things than when it's visible that he's stuttering. He's having some sort of physical tension associated with the stuttering. That has nothing to do with cognitive decline, intelligence at all.
Still, Jackson says lots of kids who stutter fear they'll be mislabeled and grow up unable to do what they want because of it. He says it may be empowering for those kids that a major party candidate for president is just like them. You can find out more about all of our guests through links on our website, radiohealthjournal.org. You'll also find archives of our programs there and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. I'm Reed Pence.
With warm weather and more hours of daylight, enjoying meals outside is a simple pleasure. Keeping staples on hand from which to assemble snacks and meals can reduce extra shopping trips, according to registered dietitian Courtney Romano, health advisor for the California Table Grape Commission.
Healthy eating is always easier with foods that are convenient and able to work in multiple ways. Grapes from California are a great example of a fresh staple. They serve as both a healthy snack or simple side dish for any family meal, as well as a versatile ingredient. Add grapes to summer salads, grill some chicken and grape skewers, use grapes in frozen fruit pops, and more.
Grapes from California are a natural source of antioxidants and other polyphenols, which research suggests contribute to heart health. For 300 ways to use this healthy fruit, visit grapesfromcalifornia.com.
More than 3 million Americans can tell you that chronic migraine is a serious disease, and its symptoms can often be debilitating. Imagine living half the month or more with headaches and migraines lasting 4 hours a day or longer. Leading neurologist Dr. Jennifer McVig is partnering with Allergan, an AbbVie company, during Migraine and Headache Awareness Month this June to encourage those living with chronic migraine to see a healthcare provider for diagnosis and treatment.
This month, we are raising awareness of chronic migraine and the importance of seeking treatment options such as Botox, anabotulinum toxin A. Botox is a prescription medicine for adults with chronic migraine, 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more. It is not approved for adults with migraine who have 14 or fewer headache days a month. Botox is the first FDA-approved preventive treatment for chronic migraine, which can help prevent a headache or migraine before it starts. Many of my chronic migraine patients have been treated with Botox, clinically proven to prevent an average of 8 to 9 headache days and migraine or probable migraine days a month versus 6 to 7 for placebo.
Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. Talk to your doctor. Visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com or call 1-866-310-4649 to learn more.
And that's Radio Health Journal for this week. Radio Health Journal is a production of MediaTrax Communications. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more. And check Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify for a library of past programs. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and information about our guests at radiohealthjournal.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Radio Health Journal.
Coming up next week on Radio Health Journal.
I think it's a lot easier for people to refrain from social interactions, but expecting people to stay silent when there is a justice that has been ongoing for so long, that's a bigger ask and a much more difficult ask.
Demonstrations amid the pandemic.
Then ultraviolet light and eyesight.
The UV rays actually cause damage to tissues. And we've heard about how sun damages skin and the importance of sunscreen. The eye is no different.
All that and more on Radio Health Journal.